Hi, how are you? So in this video I want to talk to you about where I believe the oil price is going in the coming years. Now, before I make this video, I do want to put an important caveat on this, and that is I believe nobody can predict the future. Now, if you doubt that, just look at the recent election of Donald Trump. You had a binary output there between just two characters. And even on the day of the election, all the professional pollsters, statisticians, all these models, people who are experts on the US Electoral College got it badly wrong, and Brexit as well. So that just goes to show you that trying to predict the future in any well-defined way is a fool's game. Now, to add to that, you can often see on sites like Bloomberg Report and CNN Money Report, people come on who are so-called experts, and a lot of analysis is often being done on opinions that you get on sites like that, and it's often found that the local taxi driver makes predictions that are just as good. The reality is a lot of that stuff is just the entertainment business, and the people on those sites offering opinions are really just blowing hot air. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to look at the different drivers in the market and how those drivers are likely to play out in the coming year, and that should give us a good clue as to what the price trend will be. At least there's no way we can predict what price we will have in a few years, but we can have a look at maybe where the trends are going to take us. Okay, so I'm going to approach this from the point of view of looking at the forces that on the one hand drive upward pressure and on the other hand drive downward pressure. So on one side you've got dwindling supply as fields dry up, and opposing that then you have new discoveries and new extraction technologies such as the fracking we've all heard about. The other side of that then you've got demand growth, versus that then you've got new alternative technologies. Everybody's heard of renewables, everybody's heard of electric cars, just possible behavior change we'll talk about later. And there's things like carbon taxes that can push people away from fossil fuels. Now, the things on the left-hand side of this table tend to push the prices up, and obviously the things on the right-hand side tend to push the prices down. And on top of that, you've got feedback loops going on here. So for example, as carbon taxes go up, and then that will push people towards electric cars. As fields dry up, you'll have a greater push for new extraction technologies. So all these things are not independent of each other, and there's this push and pull force going on all the time. Let's look at some numbers now around this. So current world oil production, it's about 96 million barrels a day. Now, for most people, it's very difficult to visualize just how much oil that is. It's actually a massive quantity of oil. So to put it in context, let's look at a country that's synonymous with oil production, and that's Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia produces about 10 million barrels of oil a day, which is a little bit over 10% of the world's total production. So there is a very good HSBC report that I got some numbers out of. It's a 54-page report. I'll put a link to it down in the comment section below. But the report points out that 81% of world production is already in decline. And the range for the average decline rate is around 5 to 7%, which is equivalent to 3 to 4.5 million barrels a day of lost production every year. So that's about 30 to 44% of the Saudi Arabian production, which is pretty massive when you consider Saudi Arabia is the biggest supplier in the world. They also point out in the report that the new supply is relying increasingly on small fields, and typical new oil field size for discoveries has really fallen off massively in the last few years. The new discoveries are pretty limited, and you've also got, not only has the size of oil fields discovered fallen off, but also the rate of discovery for exploration has also fallen off a bit, which is also really pushing up costs for oil companies. Now, I know everybody's heard about fracking, and fracking has been very popular in the US in particular, and it's been spreading to other parts of the world. And while that technology does hold promise, the report points out that fields that are fracked tend to decline very quickly. There is one bright spot on the fossil fuel landscape, and that's LNG, liquefied natural gas. You can see the sort of vessels it's carried in with the picture on the right. Now, the LNG market is in the early stage of a huge ramp up in supply. Global liquefaction capacity is set to rise by more than 50% by 2022. And there's also a lot of new players coming into the market, such as Angola, Nigeria, Indonesia, that are going to start supplying LNG for the first time. As a matter of fact, in the next couple of years, Australia is set to overtake Qatar as the world's LNG exporter. So it is difficult to come up with some figures for how much LNG is going to be there as an oil substitute, but I saw some figures on the web there. I'm not sure how correct they are, of 13.5 million barrels a day globally, which will be this year. Now let's look at demand growth. So oil demand is still growing by 1 million barrels a day every year, with many predicting this will continue to 2040. This means that we're going to need an incredible 4 new Saudi Arabias to meet demand, projected demand. 4 new Saudi Arabias is not very likely. So the last part of the puzzle then is new alternative technologies, renewables, electric cars, behavioral change, and carbon taxes. And I'm sure most of you have heard of the remarkable growth of solar and wind over the past few years. I'm going to make more videos about that as we go forward, just to demonstrate some real numbers around that. And even now, some countries such as Portugal and Denmark often run on 100% on renewable electricity for days at a time. Last summer, I think Portugal, for its electricity generation, ran for 4 days on 100% renewables. And even in the US, we've seen some breakthrough numbers for new US electricity generation capacity. Almost half now of new capacity coming online in the US is renewables, and coal power plants are closing down quarter after quarter all around the world, and they just can't compete even with renewable prices. We do need to bear in mind, though, that only about 20-25% of electricity generation is part of the total energy mix. 40% is still transport and 40% on heating or cooling. So in terms of the big picture, total energy consumption, we really do need much faster rollout of renewables and electric cars if we're going to make a serious difference to the amount of fossil fuels being used and to any supply constraints that come up. Now, what about behavioral change? Now, here I'm talking about maybe, stuff like global warming campaigns to encourage people to use less energy. And on an individual basis, that hasn't really worked very well so far. But there are some exceptions. Industrial energy efficiency has really worked very well in Europe. And in the last decade or so in Europe, just been huge increases in industrial energy. Now, one of the things I'm expecting is for carbon taxes to start increasing as we go forward, perhaps driven by global warming concerns. Now, Europe has had a carbon tax since about 2010, and it's priced at around €15 a tonne. It's not in place in the USA. There may be some exceptions in some states, but generally not right now. With the approach of the new Trump administration, I don't see it coming anytime soon. Now, it's been suggested in Europe, in high places, that carbon taxes need to go up to something like €200 a tonne to really make a significant impact on reducing fossil fuel consumption. So how likely that is, I can't say at the moment. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. It will take time. But there's one thing governments are good at, it's collecting taxes. So that's going to make it attractive. So let's sum up then and go back to our table. So on one side of the table, we have supply will start decreasing. I'm expecting demand growth will grow, particularly in the third world. I saw one projection there, but by 2050, the number of cars in the world could triple, by then mainly driven by demand growth in the third world. And the evidence coming from the third world at present is people there really like big cars. Places like Africa, people really prefer big vehicles like SUVs that can carry a lot of stuff and travel long distances. So this demand growth and supply reduction is, of course, going to lead to a big push for more discoveries. And indeed, LNG substitutes will be important as well. And it will also feed a big growth area of renewables. I think renewables will continue to power ahead, and we will see a big push for electric cars at some point. And we should also see as fossil fuel prices climb to a certain point, people do tend to try and cut back their consumption as well. This video is already getting too long, so I'll cut it here. So many thanks for watching. And if you want to take part in the discussion, feel free to jump in and put some comments in the section below. I certainly haven't got all the answers here. Going forward, I'll make some more videos on various topics around the whole renewable energy area because it's an area that I really like. And it's really great to see that area really coming on strong now as well. So thanks everybody. Bye bye.